A king named Sisyphus received an eternal punishment from the gods for his audacity in defying them. He was condemned to push a colossal boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll right back down to the bottom. Sisyphus then had to walk back down to retrieve the stone and haul it back up to the peak. Once there, the boulder would inevitably roll down again, forcing Sisyphus to repeat the exact same process for eternity. A truly horrifying tragedy. Yet, now, imagine Sisyphus happy. The Myth of Sisyphus is a philosophical essay written by Albert Camus. Spanning roughly 120 pages, it was first published in France under the title Le Mythe de Sisyphe. Through this work, Camus introduced his philosophical concept known as absurdism, a viewpoint explaining that while humans constantly seek meaning in life, the universe offers no definitive answers to that search. What is the meaning of life? What are we actually living for? What is the reason for our existence? Why are we here? Why must we live? Most of us have surely questioned these existential matters at some point. We might ask them when facing major life events, such as losing a job, a breakup, or a pandemic, or perhaps when you wake up one morning and realize that everyone seems to just be playing along, and nobody truly knows why we are here, what we are supposed to do, or where we are heading. Every step feels heavier, your drink tastes more bitter, and the conversations around you just fade into background noise. When we experience this state of mind, Albert Camus calls it the absurd. Camus argues that humans have a natural tendency to try and make sense of life and the world. We use reason and intellect to comprehend it. However, the harder we try to understand the world, the more nonsensical it appears. Albert Camus grew up in an environment plagued by violence. He hailed from Algeria, which was under French colonial rule at the time, and experienced firsthand the friction between the locals and the colonial government. He lost his father in the First World War and was deemed unfit to fight in the Second World War due to his health. From a young age, he battled tuberculosis, and later, as a journalist, he witnessed the sheer devastation of war. Camus' life experiences brought him face to face with war, death, and suffering. Amid all the bloodshed he witnessed, he constantly questioned whether life could still hold any value. He then asked, if the universe provides no definitive meaning, can human existence still be worthwhile? This very question became the catalyst for the philosophy of absurdism. Absurdism is a philosophical stance stating that humans constantly strive to find meaning or a rational explanation for their existence and the universe, yet this search never yields a definitive answer. In the tradition of European thought, absurdism evolved from the idea that humans do not find any objective meaning provided by the universe, leading many to try and construct their own purpose and values in life. For many, this search often leads to two different responses, either concluding that life has no meaning and all we truly have is the present moment, or attempting to fill that void with a purpose derived from a higher power, typically through faith or religion. The absurd refers to the clash that arises between the human drive to find value, meaning, and order in life, and the cold silence of a universe that offers no certain answers to that quest. Camus offers a few responses for when someone reaches this crossroads. The first is to try to evade or cover up the reality of life's absurdity. This is the most common choice, where we pretend that the world actually makes sense and try to manufacture our own purpose to make life feel meaningful. One example is our attempt to avoid the reality that life ultimately ends in death. According to Camus, some people respond to the fear of death by believing in inherent meaning, justice, or an afterlife. In more secular societies, making a lot of money and enjoying a comfortable retirement are often seen as reasonable life goals. Camus argues that many systems of thought regarding the world, whether religious, social, or ideological, are frequently used to avoid a direct confrontation with the absurdity of life, even if those systems make the journey of life feel more comfortable. Another solution is to accept that reason has its limits and turn to something beyond rational thought. Philosophers like Karl Jaspers argued that reason has certain boundaries and is incapable of answering all the deepest questions regarding human existence. At some point, humans will confront things that transcend ordinary reasoning. Other philosophers, like Kierkegaard, believe that there is a truth that lies beyond the reach of human intellect. Therefore, humans need to take a leap of faith, accepting that not everything can be understood through logic alone. The final option discussed by Camus, and perhaps the most controversial, is ending one's life upon realizing the grim reality of the absurd. However, according to Camus, suicide means cutting off the possibility of confronting absurdity, whereas it is precisely this confrontation that Camus believes gives life its value. The beauties that humans discover in life make it worth living. Humans are capable of creating meaning for their own lives, which may not be an objective meaning, but still provide something worth fighting for. Nevertheless, Camus emphasizes that one must always maintain an ironic distance between the meaning they create and the awareness of absurdity, lest their self-created meaning makes them forget the reality of the absurd. Camus then introduces the concept of acceptance without surrender, and questions whether humans are capable of living without appeal, which he defines as a form of conscious revolt against avoiding the world's absurdity. In a world that offers no definitive objective meaning, humans gain the freedom to decide how they respond to that reality. Some choose to lean on a higher power, while the absurd hero chooses to embrace that uncertainty and live on without relying on such hope. From then on, the absurd hero's rejection of hope becomes their unique ability to live in the present moment with absolute passion. According to Camus, the best path is to live consistently with the absurd, which demands the adoption of three mindsets. First, living life in a state of constant revolt, rebelling against our circumstances, including the inevitability of death. In doing so, we allow the absurd to remain present, rebelling while fully aware that victory will never be achieved. Through this attitude, we can truly live in the present, because our task is to enlighten ourselves on what needs to be done during this lifetime. The second mindset is rejecting the notion of eternal freedom, the belief that one day we will be completely free. Instead, we must realize that freedom exists in every single moment. This awareness is a vital step toward appreciating life for what it is, rather than what it should be. Third, living with passion, the passion to live life for as long as possible. The absurd human is aware of their mortality yet accepts it, conscious of the limits of their reason yet continues to use it, feeling both the pleasures and sufferings of their experiences, yet accepting and pursuing them as much as possible. Camus illustrates the solution to the absurd through the story of Sisyphus. As he returns to push the stone back to the top of the mountain, rolling it down and repeating the cycle endlessly, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Camus presents this image because Sisyphus harbors no illusions about the futility of his existence. He does not imagine a better future, because his existence is entirely tethered to the present moment. Yet, Sisyphus ceaselessly rebels against his fate by continuing to carry out a task that will never be finished. He faces that ambiguity with absolute clarity, defying both nihilism and despair. This awareness liberates him from false illusions and hopes, even within a condition that appears utterly meaningless.